This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Alongside Jacob Wilson, I think I've determined, before we get to college football talk, the first segment of the show is going to be called Small Talk, where we just banter about for a little bit, eases the audience into the day. And since it's my show, I don't really care how they react to it. But I will say this. This just happened before the show. I got an email. I had to buy some football tickets on SeatGeek a couple weeks ago. And because of that, like, I'm still in the slog of email. Like, they now have the unsubscribe from email promotions thing, except they'll be like, it could take up to 31 days for our computer that apparently is an Apple IIgs to catch up with it. So I still get these random things. And Jacob, what do you know about me and my musical taste?
I mean, I know that you are a Kenny Chesney super fan.
No, that is the exact opposite of what I am. But I just got an email saying, like, hey, get your tickets now for Kenny Chesney. And I feel like SeatGeek doesn't know me at all.
Or SeatGeek might be my favorite app in the world, and they're using an algorithm to troll you.
That might be. And he's playing at AT&T Stadium. I have sadly seen Kenny Chesney perform halftime shows at two different Cowboy Thanksgiving Day games in AT&T Stadium, and I was working, so I couldn't leave. Like, it was 15 minutes of my life that I was. It's like if say ISIS had me in captivity, like wanting government secrets, like having to hear like no shirt, no shoes. All right, here's where the missiles are. Here's what the code is. I'm sorry, I can't take it anymore. Like if you get to no problem, I'm out. I can't do it. I'm sorry.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense, though, because you're from Florida, and Kenny Chesney basically embodies that state because he's a country guy who loves being on the beach.
Yeah, and that's all fine. That's all fine and dandy. But he's an abjectly terrible songwriter. He's an even worse singer, and I just can't stand him. Here's the worst part of it, too. I suspect that of all the there's certain groups I just will not. Like, I don't have many. I have a very wide, eclectic musical taste. You know, Garrett and I can talk about old school rap music all day long. I was talking to Jack about emo bands earlier. Like, I can swim in a lot of waters. But, like, I do have, like, solid no-go zones. And Kenny Chesney is one of them. Nickelback is one of them. I don't get it, but it's just because they're so blatantly average. But
I went to a Nickelback concert in August, Paul. Yeah. And guess what? They're still playing their hits that you know from the early 2000s. Saving Me, Photograph, Far Away. They're not playing any of their new stuff.
I mean, you know what? I might take them off the list for the decency not to go, hey guys, we have some new stuff. They understand their precious, like, light hold on their audience. That at any moment, one of you can become one of me real fast. Yeah. So they're just going to, like, keep playing the hits. So I'll take them off the list. Pitbull used to be on my list, but I do have some respect for Pitbull because he's high energy. Like, you know, he does, like, but, like, you know, I just didn't. And then Maroon 5, like, and Rascal Flatts are there. Like, I will never understand how you can be a country music fan and like Rascal Flatts. It hits none of those boxes at all. None. At all. But it's somehow like somebody said, like, oh, these guys are country. And then a whole bunch of people went, okay. Like, they didn't give them any kind of, like, you know, resume check. And with Maroon 5, honestly, it sounds like he's getting hairs plucked out of his body one by one when he's singing. And at least with that one, I know that Adam Levine is a gigantic super douche. Like, everyone knows that. And I think, like, that way I feel good about it. But with Kenny Chesney, I suspect he's probably a really nice guy. Everybody seems to like him, but me, which makes me dislike him more because, like, if we ever meet, I'm the a-hole, right?
Yeah, I think you already are right now, Paul.
So, yeah. So I'm like, I mean, that's a long point to say that, but I just suspect that, you know. And we just lost Jimmy Buffett, who's one of my favorites, tragically, you know, that he's not with us anymore. And I had to watch him sing Son of a Sailor at the CMAs with Mac McAnally, and it just didn't sit well with me. And I think part of that, I will admit, a little bit is jealousy. He's friends with Jimmy Buffett. I'm not. So, you know, but there just are lines I don't cross. And I'm also mad at Kenny Chesney because I think, and he's the best one of these, but because he made so much money, begat a whole wing of country music that is just worse by the person because they're all trying to be Kenny Chesney instead of trying to just be their own thing.
I think that's a lot across a lot of genres, though, now at this point.
I mean,
yeah.
Makes me so proud of 23-year-old Jacob because when about a decade ago when I was a producer with you guys at ESPN Central Texas, I played a Kenny Chesney song as a rejoin from a commercial break, and the look on your face, you just looked at me like.
Was this before you knew?
It was before I knew, but I got like this. As soon as I realized, like it's because Paul hates Kenny Chesney, I got this warm rush. Like you learn what somebody hates, and I never really went back to that well enough.
Yeah, no.
That could change, especially after today.
Plenty of people did. Plenty of people do. You know, believe me, I've been in plenty of an exercise class, and then, you know, hear Maroon 5. You know, and here's my thing about Maroon 5. Adam Levine is a handsome person, right? You know, if you're into that kind of thing, I guess. But most women like him. If Adam Levine looked like me, people would be like, shut the F up, man. Stop whining.
Not even he can get away with the way he DMs women, too.
Yeah, exactly. So that's it. Yeah. So again, he's already at that point. Everybody has a threshold. That's all I'm saying. All right, enough small talk. The CFP, there was a change last night, Jacob, in that Georgia is now number 1, Ohio State's number 2, Michigan number 3, Florida State number 4, Washington, Oregon at 5 and 6. 7, like, there's some other changes in the bit. Like, for some reason, Missouri can get beat by 38 points or whatever they lost by a couple weeks ago and jump ahead of Louisville because they had a bad game against Virginia. But all that probably is not going to matter in the grand scheme of things when it comes down to the 4 teams because neither of those teams are probably going to be in it. But especially not Missouri. You know, they get 2 losses. But there are, like, it is interesting to see that, like, Georgia has, in the last couple weeks, because of they're putting on those big stamp wins, right? Like, okay, look, they drilled Missouri. They're just drilling everybody now. They look like Georgia again, and they're number 1. And Ohio State hasn't done anything to drop other than, you know, they haven't played anybody since I guess it would have been the Penn State game.
Correct.
So that's all that they've done. You know, Michigan stays where they've been because they've got one quality win. And now I do think that everybody's kind of starting to call into, like, how good is Penn State really? Mm-hmm. My question, like, and here'll be my question about Penn State. If Penn State was in the new Big Ten right now with Oregon and Washington, and I'll throw USC in there, even though, like, you know, we know they're a disaster on defense, but UCLA is about to fire Chip Kelly. So, but, like, if those 3 teams were in, Penn State would probably be behind at least even with USC.
Yeah. I mean, then you got to think there's no division, so could they hang or could Drew Aller play against Iowa's defense? Like, realistically.
Well, I mean, he did. He went 31-0. Yeah. But, like, that was their one game. That was the game I thought, like, oh, their offense might be good because they scored 31 points on Iowa's defense, and it was just kind of like, well.
Fluky.
I mean, I think James Franklin, he's going to have to get it together, even though the expansion's coming, because he's been just in this unfortunate jail of not being able to get past Ohio State and then now Michigan. And with the new teams coming in, we don't know how Penn State is going to be against those Pac-12 schools. And so James Franklin, I think he might need to coach extra hard for his job because there's already complaints about him not being able to get past Ohio State, Michigan. And if he can't get past the new teams coming in as well, his haters out there might have reason to scream even louder for his head.
I wonder if Manny Diaz gets a head coaching job in this cycle. I don't know. Like, he's done a really great job there, and that's what drives Penn State. But he just fired Mike Yurcich, and so he's in the bring in a new offensive coordinator phase. And the Big Ten is going to be interesting to watch down the line here because Ohio State's done it. Michigan's got such talented players, and they could change their offense and be they could probably be a lot of different things. I don't think they have the playmakers at wide receiver that say Ohio State does. But they're still really good all across the board at pretty much every position. So they're going to have 17 draft picks in this class or something ridiculous like that. They're going to be really, really good. So all that's going for them, but everybody else is going to have to adjust what they're doing, right, to account for the offenses that are coming in. Purdue was wide open under Joe Tiller. They've recommitted to that under Ryan Walters and bringing in Graham Harrell. Wisconsin's going that way. Nebraska, I think, will have an interesting offense going forward. It's not going to be like full spread because of the weather that they have to deal with in November there. If you go full spread, and I think that's going to be interesting to see what Phil Longo does at Wisconsin. Like the problem with the full, we're just going to go real fast all the time offense is that when the weather's bad, God is telling you, well, you're not going to go fast today. Yeah. I'm sorry, I know that that's your plan, but I'm not letting you. It's not even the other team. It's me. I've decided it's going to rain or snow or be super windy and you can't really do what you want to do. So, but teams like Penn State, they're right there on the cusp of being a really elite team, and that's where James Franklin is, but he is a couple of coaching decisions away from that. He is probably, and this is maybe a topic you and I could discuss the other day, is who's going to be the guys who go from being really good head coaches like James Franklin, because he is a really good head coach, to being a great head coach. Because right now, Ryan Day is a really good head coach. He's not done anything great yet. I think if you look around, who are the great head coaches in college football right now? It's Saban and Kirby Smart. I think Dabo's still in that category, although,
I mean, you mentioned Nick Saban and Kirby Smart and Dabo taking the programs that they are currently at and making them their own. Yeah. James Franklin is at Penn State, but it is still pretty much the legacy of Joe Paterno.
Yeah, it is. That's true. He's got to make it. This is what we're going to do. And if they continue on the path they're going on, he's in a weird spot because you've got no reason to fire a guy who's going to go 10-2 or 9-3 every year.
Yeah.
Georgia did it. Georgia did it to Mark Richt.
Yeah, Georgia did it to Mark Richt, but Georgia did it to Mark Richt because Kirby Smart was in existence. If Kirby Smart wasn't around, if Alabama wasn't doing what they're doing, they probably would have maybe tread water with Mark Richt along because Kirby Smart was perfect. He's the best young assistant in the country. He's the best recruiter on Nick Saban's staff. Oh, and where did he go to school and play football? Here, so that's where they are. But
too many chips had to fall into place.
Yeah, so Penn State. So for Penn State, who's that guy that is going to be? Because when you make that move, and Georgia made it at the right time because Kirby Smart was perfect. So you don't, because otherwise you're doing what Nebraska did to Frank Solich is, well, Frank Solich isn't Tom Osborne, but he wasn't far off. They weren't the same, and football was kind of changing a little bit. But they fired Frank Solich after 9 wins, and they've been in the void ever since. So you got to be, careful when you say 9 wins isn't good enough. I give you the University of Houston, who says they fire coaches at 8-4 when they let go of Major Applewhite and brought in Dana Holgerson. Well, now they're in a new conference and they have to amend that at least for the time being. But Dana Holgerson still might not make it out of it in year 1 in the league, given how the first half of last year went, even though they closed well at Houston. So if you're going to fire a 9-3 and 10-2 guy, you better have
a perfect fit.
Well, okay, Dabo Swinney. That's what Tommy Bowden was. I mean, he was a 9-3, but they had kind of gotten tired of him essentially losing to his dad all the time. Like, that's what they'd gotten tired of, and they needed somebody who could take the program in a new direction, and they felt they had it on the staff in Dabo. And that worked out beautifully. So, who is, like, you better have somebody that you're like, this is the guy who can make us 12-0 and in the conference title game. And, James Franklin, if he got fired at Penn State, would be at 50 other different schools by lunch the next day because they're like, yeah, we'll take the 10-2 guy. He can figure out being 10-2 here.
Yeah.
We'll trade our guy right now for the 10-2 guy, which is why Miami hired Mark Richt so fast it'd make your head spin because they thought, well, look, if he can get us back to 8, 9, 10 wins in this league. Now he eventually had some health problems and plus I think he also went down there and found out they're not giving money like they used to here. This is a different challenge. But I mean, he retired because he was having health problems, and I had a stroke a couple years ago, as a matter of fact. So yeah, there are there's those things. So the guys who are right there on the cusp that are good coaches, but they haven't done anything really great yet. Lincoln Riley is on that. He's a really good coach, but he hasn't done anything great yet.
True.
Brian Kelly.
There are those guys, and sometimes it's just a coaching staff decision. It is, okay, I've got all this other stuff here. Who's the guy that can take this deficiency? Ryan Day might have made it. He might have made that by bringing in Jim Knowles from Oklahoma State because now he's got an elite defense and eventually he's going to have an elite offense again. That's never going to be a problem. Now, he's probably going to lose to Michigan for a third year in a row because Michigan is so good. I don't think him losing to Michigan is an indictment on Ohio State right now. It's just how good Michigan is. I don't know if the fans there will understand this because I think there's a certain group of Ohio State fans that, as I say it out loud, of losing to Michigan 3 years in a row shouldn't get the Ohio State coach fired. They're like, that's Japanese to me. I don't understand what you're saying. You might as well,
and the diehard
gobbledygook.
The diehard Ohio State fans want to murder Michigan and anyone who mentions losing to Michigan. And so, would it surprise me if they fired Ryan Day at any point simply because he lost to Michigan 3 years in a row? Yeah, it would. But I call you stupid. I call you very, very stupid for doing that.
Well, because again, things should they have fired Jim Harbaugh because he lost to them the first 5 years he had the job or whatever it was? I mean, until 2 years ago, he hadn't beaten them. Should Michigan have fired him because he couldn't get over the hump? No, because nobody else was getting you've got to sometimes trust that he can, the guy you have in charge can steer the ship in the right direction. So, again, if you're Ohio State and you want Ryan Day gone, who's regularly a 10-2 or an 11-1 coach, if you want that guy gone, what's plan B?
I mean, I think you're stupid. I really do.
So, but those are the things. If you are in that realm of we're 10-2 all the time, but I want to get to 12-0, the good news that's coming for you is the 12-team playoff. Mm-hmm. That's the good news that's coming. The coaches that fought it are going to feel really stupid about fighting it because they're going to be like, oh, I get to finish 12th and then play in a playoff game that I might win. And then people are going to be like, oh, hey, wow. Well, I mean, because then you're going to have a bigger group of fans of won the first playoff game, but gosh darn it, had to play LSU in that second round. And, they had this, so-and-so player that nobody was going to beat. Bummer.
I mean, how many teams do you see every year that come out and maybe start their season 6-3? They're not thought of in the potential college football playoff, but they peak they play their best football at the end of every season. Guess what happens at the end of every season? The playoff. Yeah. And so it gives those teams that really got their shit together during the season a chance to take that and actually play for something.
Yeah, no, I think there are good things coming around, but that's what you have to look at with these coaches who are the good, but they're the really good, but not great yet.
Yeah,
and then there's the level below them of the guys who are upcoming, the Mike Norvells and Steve Sarkisians of the world that are that are probably about to do big things. Brent Venables, I think, is probably in that category.
Lanning.
But Chris Kleiman, like those guys. So who did you say?
Dan Lanning.
Dan Lanning. Yeah, Dan Lanning. Kalen DeBoer. Like those guys are in that level of haven't done as much as those guys before them, but they're really new at the gig. So but look, Jimbo Fisher just got fired for being a regular 8-4 coach because A&M was used to that. Like they can get anybody. Like basically, A&M is telling the world anybody can come in here and be 8-4.
But 8-4 isn't good enough to stay A&M for a long time.
But it's not like because everybody's proven that anybody can go in and take that job and be 8-4. It's a gigantic school with a ton of resources. You bring kids in and like bring them into a stadium. It's 100,000. Like even for the the gimme games that they have, 100,000 people are in the stands going insane. So like you're going to be able to get top 15 recruiting classes most years without even like, there's a couple 5 stars. Oh, bummer. Like I'm still going to be really good and beat 8 of the 12 teams I play, but that's not what they're paying for.
Yeah. I mean, look, I never understood why, going back to Dan Lanning for a second, I never understood why negging was the thing that people did when they wanted to flirt or, try that as a pickup method. But when Dan Lanning shut down the rumors of him going to Texas A&M, I got a little hot and bothered.
Yeah. Well, okay. Garrett, do you want to play another quick round of Do You Believe Him?
Let's do it.
Urban Meyer denied that he was interested in Texas A&M. Do you believe him?
Hell no. I don't. No.
I mean, that would be interesting.
Yeah. We believe Dan Lanning. He was like the way he discussed it. And it's good news, bad news. Like if you're a fan of Oregon or Florida State, because they're in the playoff chase right now, they'd be stupid to interview at A&M. Mm-hmm. Like to even think about it because you're about to do what A&M wants you to do right now very early on in your tenure somewhere else. So you shouldn't even bother with it. Like you shouldn't even bother with it. And it'd just be about money. Right. Like that's all it would be about because, Florida State and Clemson can complain all they want about the lack of money and resources and all these other things, but those two football programs don't have to worry about that.
No.
They get all the money that they want. So really what they're complaining about is like, man, we're really going to have to tell the softball team, you guys are going to have to ride the bus a lot because we don't have the same money. That's what's going to happen. Yeah. And that, the football teams will want for nothing. If the bottled water they get is Ozarka and they want to go to Smart Water, they'll get it. It's not gonna. Hey, we're not fans of Ozarka anymore. We'd like to bump up. You know what? What's the kind that Diddy drinks? Fiji water. We want that. All right, you guys get Fiji. Whatever you can say about it. So, so. I believe those guys when they say they're not because again, you've got what you want at where you are. Like A&M would just be going, well, I know you make $9 million, but how do you feel about 12? And they're like, well, but am I gonna really win here because nobody else has? Because they've said we can be 8-4 with just about anybody.
Yep.
Just about anybody can roll in here and be 8-4. A guy who's won a national championship a decade ago will come in here and do his worst job and still be 8-4. Like, here's the thing about Jimbo. The worst coaching he's done outside of his last year at FSU when he had, everything but his arm out the door, just basically, holding up the game plan for everybody to follow. Other than that, his worst coaching in his whole career has been at A&M pretty much 8-4 all the time. So that's a program that their baseline is pretty comfortable to start at. And he got let go. And their plan B is they don't know. They have no idea what their plan B is. And so if you're going to get rid of a really good coach, and Jimbo used to be a great coach,
yes,
then fell down to really good, and is now still a good coach. That's the thing that's kind of lost in this is that he's still good.
Yep.
But when you pay $11 million, you're looking for great. And so if you're going to let the really good go, just know that there's not a diamond mine below your feet that you're just going to keep getting them out of. It's tough. So that's a long way around about James Franklin. If like, okay, so if James Franklin's not the guy who can win at Penn State, well, who is? Because basically, Bill O'Brien won there in the short time he was there. He turned it kind of right around from a really terrible scandal. Mm-hmm. And then James Franklin came in after Bill O'Brien went to the NFL and has been consistently good. And in the conversation, he's just not as good as two of the teams in this league, and he's about to be not as good as probably four. Mm-hmm. Because I think that Oregon and Washington, maybe five, Oregon, Washington, USC will be routinely better than them in that league. You know, USC, here's the deal. You throw USC into a league that they get 4 games against Minnesota, you know, Rutgers, Maryland, like stuff like that, like they're gonna hit a momentum wave of offense sometimes that's gonna be like, well, just getting in their way a little bit. So yeah, they've got to deal with that. So is the whole Big Ten. Like I think Iowa is gonna be the biggest test case for how fast because they're already starting to turn on him anyway, but how fast do you turn on the coach that you love? Because you're like, oh well, it has passed him by. But again, like if you're Iowa, you're routinely 9-3, 10-2, sometimes 11-1, like rolling through. Like you really win most of your games. Okay, so at Iowa, Kirk Ferentz you're gonna give him the Kirk. You know, nobody at your age should be working this hard. Yeah. You should enjoy your golden years. Why don't you get yourself a nice vacation home and Sanibel Island, and
we've got these new teams coming
charter
in
trips
that are high-powered offenses, a little bit more fun to watch than our brand of football here.
You don't want to Kirk. You don't want to deal with all this. There's a lot of you're old school. Like, do you really want to pay a quarterback $100,000 minimum to just show up here? You don't want to do that, Kirk. You don't want to do that. So, but if you're Iowa and you're going to push the legend out the door, you got to have a plan B. And Texas didn't have a plan B after Mac Brown. They didn't.
Clearly.
They didn't have a plan B. I mean, he played for the conference title 2 years before they fired him. Mm-hmm. Like, they could have really ridden it out probably with Mac a little bit longer and just kind of, pointed him in certain directions, but they didn't. You know, the funniest part about Jimbo Fisher is he was an excellent plan B. Like, Bobby Bowden's getting old. Jimbo's the coach in waiting. Bobby, it's time to retire.
No one was talking about who Florida State should hire next because everyone who was paying attention knew.
They made him the coach in waiting 2 years before it was happening. And then that last year, it was just he's not going to wait. So, I mean, that's unfortunate, but you got to have a plan B. Like, again, when you push the legend out the door, you got to have a plan B. And, yeah, I don't know who Penn State's plan B would be. Like, again, and so...
I mean, I'm not saying you need to fire James Franklin now.
No, but you do need, he does need to look at, what is keeping them down and from losing to them. And with the teams that are coming in, again, your goal is to finish 12th. There's going to be years that they do that. But, with... also, even if your goal is to finish... sometimes it's not even 12th. I mean... If 5 teams in your league are better than you, and you're going to be jockeying for that last position of the 4 that they might even give you in the 12-team playoff, because the Big Ten some years is going to get 4 of those teams.
Probably 4.
The SEC is going to get 4 of those teams, and then everybody else will get the other 4. But
I mean, it's just 4 automatic bids, right, for the conference champions, and then 8 spots.
No, it'll be 5 plus 7, so it'll be top 5.
The Pac-12 won't be around anymore, right?
Yeah, so it's top. So that protects the group of 5.
Oh, okay.
So there's the 4 power conferences, and then the top. So this year it would be Tulane right now. If it's 12-team playoff right now, Tulane would be in. So you get your Tulane in, and then after those 5, you get 7 other spots.
7 more. Yeah.
So then of those 7, more than likely, 5 of them will be occupied by the Big 2, and then 2 of them will be oh hey, an ACC and a Big 12 team had a good little year. We'll throw them in there. Nice work, Arizona State.
Yep.
Good for you. Here's Michigan. Hey, Congratulations, Duke, on making the 12-team playoff. For your first-round matchup, we'd like to give you Georgia.
Between the hedges, nonetheless.
Yeah. On the road. How do you feel about that? So, yeah, that's that. The world's changing, and so you got to be prepared for it. When we come back, why does Week 12 suck? Every year, like, why does nobody do anything about this? I know it's before rivalry week, but, like, instead of, like, you know,
I mean, you're
nothing
right.
game before rivalry, can we get a medium game? Like, just a medium
Just
game.
get one singular solitary game that people can get bricked up for. Because
but, like, the whole schedule, not the whole schedule, but, like, a lion's share of it. And, look, here's the thing. The only reason the Pac-12 schedule is so good, like they've got a couple good ones this week, is because they happened into the best year of their league ever. But there would have been years where this would have been a bad week in the Pac-12 as well. We'll talk about that when we come back. This is 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome back. Jacob Wilson alongside. Now, so Week 12 is just quite often abjectly terrible when it comes to college football. We've got rivalry week next week. So, this is tomato can week across the... Now, there's some games that are, really key, to the whole thing. But Bama's playing Chattanooga. They do this every year. Before the Egg Bowl, they are not going to risk it. And I get the logic behind
the Iron Bowl.
The Iron Bowl. I'm sorry. I'm looking at Ole Miss. Before the Egg Bowl, they're playing UL Monroe.
It's a hot garbage slate in the SEC. Other than, like Georgia and Tennessee might be an okay matchup, but
A&M's like letting Elijah Robinson get his feet wet with Abilene Christian before he has to go coach up against LSU. Which I believe is on the road, right?
Yeah, they got to come to Death Valley.
Yeah. So, hey, your first SEC game as a head coach is in Death Valley. Let's see if you got the minerals. Georgia and Tennessee could be good for a little while, but I don't think that anybody believes that's going to hold. Let's see. FSU plays North Alabama. Kansas and Kansas State could have been a good game, but Kansas is down to their third quarterback. Unless Jalen Daniels is just laying in wait all healed.
Me and Jack were talking about that earlier because if you look at the line, it's like a one-score game in favor of K-State. So there's something there that's going on.
Yeah. And look, maybe if I'm Lance Leipold, I'll just I'm not even gonna let him warm up outside. I'll put him sneak him into the indoor. You're gonna warm up out there. They have an indoor at KU. Sure they do.
They might be working on one.
Yeah. But sneak him in somewhere else he can warm up, and then just have him walk out with a jacket over him and then throw it off and run in when they have the ball the first time.
I mean, that would be a baller move, too.
Even let the other guy take the first snap and have him sulking over there, his hat on and his shoulder pads, and you let him dress because maybe he could be okay in an emergency, and he just comes in and does it. I mean, I'm all about showmanship, but But even but your point is good. If if he's going to play, Lance Leipold's not going to tell anybody until he does. So, for whatever that's worth. Now, Washington, Oregon State is probably the best game of the week. That's a good one. You know, you're going to happen across some. LSU's playing Georgia State. I mean, like, so there are – I just wish, like – I get that you don't want to be the week before the rivalry game. And, look, for my Seminoles, look, they played, you know, Rival 1A, and they're playing Rival 1, like, between – like North Alabama, you know, sandwich in between them. But even still, like – I mean, could you throw like the medium game in there, like I
think the conference to blame for the disdain that we both have for this slate of games this week is the Big Ten, because the SEC, ACC, they have games that are, some of them are FCS, some of them are just Division II, whatever lower level you might want to think of. It's a tune-up game to get ready for, you know, your rivalry week. But the Big Ten, it is all conference against conference, and every single game is terrible.
Well, it's like they got everything out of the way so that everybody's only going to focus next week on the game.
I mean, I would rather, there's a lot of things I'd rather watch than Illinois, Iowa.
I would honestly, like, rather watch a documentary about how they make paint and then watch that paint dry at the end of the, like, through the credits.
I'd rather watch a documentary about colon cancer.
At least you'd learn something. At least you'd learn something. I would rather watch a Kesney Chesney music video than that. Give me She Thinks My Tractor Sexy on repeat for the same amount of time.
And your mom is the girl in the video.
Then anything that is that week. I mean, that, yeah. I mean, so, you know, we're like, the Big Ten, Michigan at Maryland, not going to be an upset. Rutgers at Penn State. Now, Rutgers does have a winning record, and, you know, that could get interesting. They're 6-4 in like a defensive slugfest, but again, Penn State's just better. Michigan State and Indiana, no one wants to watch that game. Purdue and Northwestern, blah.
Nebraska and Wisconsin could actually be a really good game.
Well, I mean, like, bowl eligibility on the line, like, you know, each of them needs the win to get the bowl, and they only have one opportunity left. And then Nebraska would have to play Iowa, who just doesn't let people score.
Correct.
And they're kind of a disaster at quarterback anyway right now. So, yeah, it's that one's good. And then Wisconsin has Minnesota the next week, so, you know, precious few points there in the Big 12 West or Big 10 West. And then, like, look, the SEC has. Oh, wait, sorry, that's next week. You know, here's the good game, like Georgia and Tennessee and Florida and Mizzou, and Kentucky and South Carolina are the only league matchups during the week. Kentucky and South Carolina has no bearing on the league race at all, unless somehow the winner of that game, like, gets an amulet that allows them to destroy all the other teams in the league. So, like, after the game, a witch just comes up out of the center of the field and bestows upon Mark Stoops the amulet of supreme power. Like, that's the only way that's going to happen. And Georgia and Tennessee could certainly affect things, but Tennessee is going to have to use every single voice in that stadium to rattle a Georgia team that seems like they got all their demons out of them. I
mean, I'll own up to it. My Ole Miss take, saying that Ole Miss was going to upset Georgia, that went over like a lead balloon, and I feel stupid.
Yeah. I mean, that's like, because of the Ole Miss win, like the Mizzou win, like Mizzou 30-21, Mizzou's a good team. Mizzou, like, really fought hard and gave Georgia all they wanted. But after the first quarter of the Ole Miss game, it's like, okay, well, they saw all of, like, everything that Lane was going to throw at them. And then just, you know, systematically.
I mean, Kirby Smart saw Lane Kiffin. You're wearing a visor? No. I wear the visor here.
Look, there's only one coach who legitimately can rock the visor.
Spurrier?
Yes. Spurrier was the original visor guy. Everyone else, even like Bob Stoops. Where did Bob Stoops work before he went to Oklahoma?
Florida.
For Spurrier. So where do you think he got that from?
I mean, I thought he looked pretty good in the
Yeah,
in
there's
the
some
visor.
guys that look good in the visor, but look, there's one guy, you know.
Yeah, I mean, he coined it, but I guess when you coin something and somebody else does it, I guess I understand your take on this.
Yeah. A visor, here's the thing, for like you can only wear the visor if you're an emotional coach because you want people to see how much you've messed up your hair, like being mad at your team or the officials or whatever. That's the deal. That's the visor rule. So like Kirby Smart, he didn't really take off the visor all that much.
No, it's usually on at all times.
Lane will take it off. Bob would take it off.
Yes.
And Spurrier, I mean, it was because he could throw it, he could like slam it on his leg. I mean, there were all these things. And then he would put it back on, and his hair would be a little bit messed up so that when whoever did him wrong came back to the sideline, they would see, this is what you're doing to me. This is the amount of stress that you've put me under because you did the thing wrong. Mm-hmm. Plus, Spurrier always liked to be able to like walk out of a building and go to the golf course right away.
I mean, he had a golf visor when he coached. That was just
Yeah,
his
exactly.
look.
So Steve Spurrier, I promise you to this day, could walk out of like a liver transplant and just be like, all right, that's it. I'm gonna get 9 in.
I mean, you know who should
had a transplant. Don't want to push it.
You know who should never wear one ever again, a single day in his life, is Dana Holgerson. You have the worst head of hair that I have maybe ever seen.
You have to have hair. You can't have the receding hairline. Look, Garrett's a bald man.
Yeah, there's no way I can pull off the visor.
Yeah, he's not doing it. He wears hats every single day.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, he has hair on the back of his, like he's got the George Costanza, but with flow.
Yeah.
And
Mike Gundy wears the visor. You know why? Full head of hair.
You're protecting your eyes, but you're not protecting your bald dome. Like, come on,
Sometimes
Dana.
he doesn't because I think he likes to like let the feathers flock a little bit there. But Mike Gundy's worn the visor. Like there's certain rules that you have to adhere to. That's how boring week 12 is that we're talking about visors. So there's no you have to have a good head of hair because you have to show that you're exasperated. Look, Dana Holgerson, visor or no visor, like even like when he's wearing it, like we saw him at Big 12 Media Days, because of the way his hair is, he looks frustrated anyway.
At all times, yes.
Dana Holgerson, like if you want to talk about George Costanza, if you look annoyed, people think you're busy. That's Dana Holgerson's default look.
I mean, maybe George Costanza wasn't the right. Frank Reynolds, I think, is a better hair comparison.
Yeah.
For Dana Holgerson.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Because it's like if Frank Reynolds wore a visor on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah, and it's just going all over the place. There's no rhyme or reason to it at all. Yeah, no, you can't. Yeah, he should go cap. He should go.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Also, what I think Dana could pull off?
What's that?
The full Bobby Bowden, full visor hat. He could do that.
That was Bobby Bowden's signature.
The large bucket hat.
I mean, I would be all right with him taking on the Tom Landry fedora for all I know, because that would be better than the visor. That's all I'm saying.
Ooh, fedora? I think he can pull that off. I think, honestly, when Dana retires from coaching, he'll wear one every day because he's going to be somewhere. He will wear a fedora, and he will not wear anything but flip-flops.
PJ Fleck pull off a top hat?
A bowler.
Yes.
The bowler.
With his little
If
suit.
PJ Fleck, he could do the Tom Landry houndstooth, but he could also do a bowler really easily.
I could see it.
Yeah. Or it's not a Kangol hat because the Kangol hat you wear backwards, but whatever the style of hat.
I think you can wear it forward or backward, right?
Yeah, but you're supposed to wear it backwards. I think that they want you to see the logo. When people see your face.
I mean,
but
after Sam L. Jackson started wearing those, I think kind of ruined it for white guys.
no, not that one. Hold on. hat style. Like I'm looking up hat
Like a
styles.
Peaky Blinders hat or something?
Yeah, the herringbone.
Okay.
The herringbone. Yes, Peaky Blinders hat.
Yes.
He could totally pull off the Peaky Blinders hat. The herringbone, he could do that one. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Top hat might be too formal.
I know, but it would look great. It would be hilarious.
We're really getting into the weeds this week, Paul.
You know, look, Dave Aranda is an intentionally bald man. He shaves his head. He's got a good shaped dome so he can get away with it.
He does good maintenance on his dome. Yeah.
I would love to see him doing the backwards Kangol. It would work for him.
He could pull it off.
Yeah. So I would if he was wearing a cap, it would bother me.
Yeah, I don't think he could. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure there's times where he has to, like if you're out in a boat or something, but you know.
Yeah.
Pretty specific.
I mean, what do bald guys like? If you're a coach and you're coaching up north, Minnesota, Wisconsin,
they do the skull cap. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, but what other options are there to keep your head warm? I don't know. Never had to think about these things.
Look, this is the only show where we're going to talk about what coaches could wear on their head.
True.
Brian Kelly could only wear a cap, but he doesn't. He doesn't wear anything.
Yeah, he don't wear anything.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Sometimes it's just not your look.
Yeah.
You know, but there are certain people who can get away with things.
But what about an option we haven't discussed and it hasn't been worn by anyone that I can think of but Bum Phillips, the cowboy hat? Who's pulling that off besides, I guess Prime's done it.
I don't know if he's doing it during the game, though.
Oh, true.
You got to do it during the game. Lincoln Riley rocks the visor, but he's also a Bob Stoops apostle. Mm-hmm. So
Jimbo could, but he don't have a job.
No. Jimbo wears the cap.
Yeah.
And I don't think he could do that because he's a little comb over there. So he would have the Dana. He wears the cap. His look is exasperated junior high coach. Like that is his whole vibe. Like I think that's part of the reason that some people like Jimbo Fisher because he reminds you of your youth when Devin, come over here. Devin, how many times I got to tell you? Like, when the weak side guy goes this way, you follow him. God, Devin. That's his look the whole time. He would yell. And I think the only reason that Jameis Winston was as successful with Jimbo as he was is Jameis was the only guy who, when Jimbo would yell at him, Jameis would be like, no, this is what we're doing. And Jimbo would be like, I guess you're right. Go ahead. So, yeah. When we come back, we've talked a lot about Texas A&M the last couple of days because of what's going on. If they're the most underachieving program in the country, who is the second most underachieving? We might have mentioned some of them earlier.
I think we might have, yeah.
And I'll tell you this. If you won a national championship since, how long do you want to go back here, Garrett?
Integration?
Nah, I mean, maybe that might be too far. But because Nebraska, Miami, Michigan all haven't won in a long time.
What about
through the 90s?
Yeah, 1990s. Yeah.
Since 1990. Since 1990, who are the most underachieving programs in the country? We'll talk about that next. This is 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome back to the Triple Option alongside Jacob Wilson. I'm Paul Catalina. Okay, Texas A&M spends the most but gets the most medium. Like I said before, anybody. Would you like to be coach at Texas A&M tomorrow, Jacob?
I mean, no, not really.
You have 4 years to make a ton of money and you'll go 8-4.
I mean, do you want me to be honest, or do you want?
Yeah, I want you to be honest.
Yeah. It'd be a sweet gig.
Yeah, Garrett. If I said you're the head coach at A&M, I know they're not going to fire you for 4 years because you're going to have a PR team that's going to sell Garrett Ross as the coach. You have 4 years to make $10 million a year before you're going to go 8-4 every single time, and maybe 7-5 in your last year.
I'd take it.
Yeah. Again, default setting. See, not every program's default setting is 8-4. Baylor's default setting sure as heck is an 8-4, right?
Baylor doesn't really have a default setting because they are capable of being all over the map.
I think you know what it is, Jacob. It's not because their default setting isn't 6-6 because
that's what I'm saying. They had a 16-year run of pure pain.
Yeah.
I lived through it, and I can understand why you say that. But if we're starting in 1990, they've had ups and downs. I'm saying that they don't have a default setting because they are capable of being very, very good and 1-11 or 0-12.
Yeah. So, again, maybe their meter's just broken. They don't have one. You're right. So,
but they're not belonging in this conversation, really.
No, right now. But underachieving programs. So if A&M is number one, would Penn State maybe be number two?
I think you could make an argument that no.
Notre
Dame.
Notre Dame. Yeah.
And then Penn State.
Yeah, Notre Dame and Penn State. Because Notre Dame, again, the degree of care, and I know that they say academic restrictions and all that, and that's why Brian Kelly left.
Yeah.
I think that's, for a program like Notre Dame, I think that's bogus. Because you are a religious institution of the main, the most popular.
You cornered the Catholic population.
Yeah. I mean, there's 5 Baptist schools, and they get there's 2 big ones, it's Baylor and Wake, and they're not that big. But as far as Notre Dame goes, compared to all the other Catholic schools, they are so above and beyond as far as popular. Jacob, you and I both grew up going to Catholic, middle school, elementary, middle school, and high school, and Notre Dame is ever present, right? And
no other reason that people in Texas should be fans of Notre Dame, a school in Indiana, but because of its Catholic prowess, they have fans all over the world. They transcend their location.
Yeah, exactly. So if academics is your problem, and then if you're not going to go to public school and you're going to go to private school, what religion has the most schools? The Catholics do. So again, you still have a recruiting ground of man, we really need a smart, elite offensive lineman. Oh, where can we go? Every Catholic high school that has good football teams everywhere. In any of the 50 states, you can go get one. Yep. So I don't buy that because their default setting is probably 9-3 at Notre Dame. When they have a good coach, their default setting is 9-3, which is why, what Brian Kelly did was impressive because they had some coaches that were coming in regularly below the default setting. He came in and put them back where they were. He just could not get over the hump, and they got tired of each other. Which is what's going to happen at LSU.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
What they'll appreciate is the efficiency in which he runs the program. He knows how to run the program. This needs to be here. He's going to set up infrastructure that Coach O just did not have.
But Coach O got the championship.
But I do think that he's eventually they'll be and that's probably going to be when he retires because he's not young.
Yes.
He's quite middle-aged. Mm-hmm. But he left one of the most underachieving, and he's the all-time winningest coach there, to go to one that's not underachieving. and LSU. So I would say A&M, Notre Dame, Penn State. Who is the top 5 in this one?
A wild card, I don't know if they'd necessarily be in the top 5, but I think you could make a legitimate argument for South Carolina because you're in a great location. You've had, like, Spurrier there. Like, you've had coaches. You've won a natty way, way back. Or was it like in the 80s, 83 or something like that? Or was it just the SEC championship?
I mean, I know they had a
it was
Heisman
the
Trophy,
Yeah.
but I don't know about
They got a
natty.
Heisman Trophy. Yeah, they're natty. Let's see. I'm trying to think since 90.
Tennessee
won in 98.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
there's a lot of teams that are doing well this season
Yeah.
who had really long gaps of underachieving,
Yeah.
Florida State being one.
Florida State's gap was 6 years.
I mean,
Actually, 5. They won 10 last year. 5 years.
there was,
That's not a
there
long
was
gap.
never a 6-year stretch like that under Bobby Bowden, though.
Yes, there was.
Maybe my memory. Starting in the 90s?
No. It was from the time Chris Ricks crawled up out of the friggin' ooze and became the quarterback until Bobby retired. Yeah, they were pretty, until Jimbo took over, they were pretty mid. So, yeah, 5 years. But yeah. So I'm going to say from 2000 and we'll just call it 2002 to 2007 or 8, they were, and then they kind of like.
Would Oregon qualify?
You know what? I'm going to throw Oregon on the list because
They're always there. They're always there, but
Yeah.
they can never do it.
Yeah, they won the costume contest of college football and became relevant, and then they established a new baseline, but they haven't. You're right. They've only played in one national championship game, haven't won it. They haven't broken through.
Like, I legitimately don't remember Oregon being relevant until Joey Harrington. Like, that's the first time I ever Oregon was on my map, my radar.
Yeah, they've always been close, and look, they played and lost to Urban Meyer.
Yeah.
in the first CFP championship game, but they're always right there. They haven't ever broken through. I would say UCLA, but you'd be surprised at how poorly they
I put
spread around
Washington
there
over that.
But Washington won in '92, so Washington, or 93, whatever it was, 92, because FSU won in 93. But yeah, Washington's won. So under Don James, they won.
Oklahoma State. That is, I don't understand that program.
I mean, Mike Gundy has been, because he is a fantastic coach. He's really good, but he's yet to hit his great button yet.
Yeah. I don't know if he ever will. I don't think he will, honestly.
I mean, I don't know. And there's no reason for it because they've had teams that he's put together, talent that he's put together that should have absolutely won the conference and could have probably beaten. They kind of he has had a couple teams that had they not lost stupid games when they did, probably could have beaten the team that wound up playing in those games that did because they were really good. What?
Even last week.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but because they have those, that's what gets him. Is not okay, you're gonna lose to Oklahoma. All right, fine. What gets Mike Gundy is not that he has a really bad record against Oklahoma because every Oklahoma State coach did. Because he has a pretty good record against Texas, right? He has a good record against pretty much everybody else in the league, but it's you just pick a game where one of the good Oklahoma State teams has no business losing, and they lose that game, and that's because it's not it's certainly not Oklahoma that's keeping him from being great because there's been enough gap where he could have.
Yeah, Gundy has beaten them enough times to be hey, recruit, we beat the big Oklahoma.
Yeah, but it is the time that you lose to a 4-5 Kansas State team when they've had a down year, or you miss a field goal, or Iowa State. Yeah, you miss a field goal against Iowa State. And you're not in the college football play, or in the national championship. Those are the things that happen. So yeah, I would put. Yeah, I think we got a good solid 5 there of underachievers.
What are the 5? Oklahoma State,
Oregon.
Notre Dame,
Penn State,
and A&M.
Yeah,
Notre Dame's number 2.
Yeah.
Notre Dame's number 2. And Notre Dame won in 1987 or 88.
Lou Holtz. I think it was 88
Yeah.
or maybe the 87 season.
Yeah. So they won under Lou Holtz, and they haven't won since then. But yeah, to me, if you're a routinely 9-3 or 10-2 program, you are like one or two, like one big decision and one like sneaky decision away from being in that level. Like the
Georgia's the blueprint.
Yeah, Georgia was that, like, you know, they couldn't fire Mark Richt. They couldn't fire Mark Richt. They couldn't fire Mark Richt because they were smart enough to know that, like, you know, like, what are we going to, like.
I mean, A&M might be breaking, like, they need to be, like, listening to this because while everyone was fed up with Jimbo, like, who's the next guy?
Who are you watching? Like, and again, I think that guy lives in San Antonio, Texas right now.
It should be.
It should be, like, the more I think of it, like, you know, because if it's not going to be like, if you were just playing like the fantasy draft of like, who's the guy who can come in, win with this roster tomorrow, and you don't even have to think about it, to me, it's Dan Lanning. But you can't really do that because Dan Lanning is in a situation that is going to be very difficult to pry him out of. And your timing is not good because of the rules that exist. Now, if the transfer portal didn't exist, and you could wait on Dan Lanning, much like Georgia did on Mark Richt when they hired him in the first place from FSU. Like, they could wait. Like, it's fine. Like, he can do whatever. Yeah, but you can't wait anymore. You have to make this hire in like 6 days to really hit the ground running. So because of that, you know, Dan Lanning and Mike Norvell and guys like that are kind of off the table, even though you might take a shot at them. They're probably not going to have the time to listen to you right now or the inclination because everything you're saying you want them to do, they're already doing it. And why upset the apple cart? So that's why, like, Jeff Traylor is the perfect hire for Texas A&M. He is the perfect hire. But they're going to have to sell that to their people and be like, I know he's just the coach at UTSA, but trust us, this dude knows everyone. He's good at all the things we need him to be good at, and he's doing this at UTSA. He can certainly do it.
Yeah, don't hire just because you want to flex your money muscle and steal a coach at another school. I think that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, don't do that. Like, actually think about it, you know.
Yeah.
Actually,
set your ego down and hire the right guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Because look, I know there's Dabo Sweeney rumors right now, and he's not done a great job of shooting them down because that's what he does all the time, especially when something comes up. But you might be doing with Dabo what you did with Jimbo. Was this guy's won? It's not working the ACC anymore. Let him come over here. But I would think new, not retread.
Yeah, I would
think new. A&M, think new. As Barney Stinson once said, new is always better. That's going to do it for us. This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on